Dandelion, you're a joy to my eyes. Dandelion, you're a joy to my eyes. Oh, your yellow and gold flies through the breeze. Far and wide you spread your seed.
From the mundane to the magic, and the humble to the harmonious, I'm now ready to share with the world the medicine that has inspired me to release old fears and patterns and realise my full potential, finding the full spectrum of peace and excitement and everything in between, and that it's available to me right now and in each and every moment as I walk my own unique path of wonderment in the world. This podcast will inspire, hopefully, not only my journey and my story, but also yours. Welcome to Dandelion Stories. I'm Emily Doe, sharing stories through this podcast and learning and growing as I go.
Hi Laura, thank you so much for joining me on this second episode of Dandelion Stories. I have been looking forward to talking to you. You so kindly donated your Dandelion song to me for the podcast, and I'm so super happy. I've had so many gorgeous responses from people about your song, and we will talk about that later on. But for now, I just love to invite you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Hi Emily, morning. Yeah, lovely to speak to you and see you. So yeah, I guess it's quite hard to describe yourself. I guess I could start saying I'm a mum of three lovely children. I've got a 9.5-year-old boy, got a 7-year-old boy, and a almost 3-year-old girl. And yeah, I think like it's quite a long stretch of time to be a mother. Almost thinking about previous to that, it's quite strange, the life before, but that's a whole nother conversation. I'm married to my husband, who's Israeli, and being Jewish, I'm very connected to Israel, kind of growing up in that environment, celebrating lots of festivals. We've never been religious, but for me, the traditions are always so lovely and important, and sort of bringing our children up in that environment is really special. And kind of what I've been used to is kind of these little really interesting rituals that have been practiced for like thousands of years from every spectrum of the religion, which is really special. Every other Friday I run a play group at the synagogue that my kids go to the Sunday school there. Again, lots of play, lots of stories, lots of just gentle rituals, lighting the candles, having the challah, which is like the plaited bread. And I'm a singer-songwriter of a folk band, Solebound, which I've been sort of, I guess, since probably about 20 years, on and off, 15, 20 years, it's been under that name. And I also make jewellery, I make macrame jewellery, kind of micro macrame, so not like the big plant holders. I do lots of like earrings and necklaces, and that's a lot from my sort of travels in India, learning there. And I run a couple of singing mama groups, which are like women's circles, so I'm sure we'll talk more about that later. I think that's it for now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd love to share links to any gigs that you've got coming up with Solebound, and also links to Singing Mamas and your groups that you run for that, so that people know about where to find you. Definitely we'll talk about that more in a moment. And I'd love to purchase some of your jewellery if you ever sell any, because that sounds cool.
Definitely.
Great. So I've decided to call this episode Love, Peace and Sharing Songs. And we'll talk about some of your inspirations today. And what I would really like to start our conversation off with today is finding out what your journey has been throughout your life with song, with sharing songs and with singing.
So I think singing for me has been like, it's always been a part of my life. Always been singing at school, singing in like the youth movement. I used to go on camp every year, and we'd just be like, all the leaders would be singing with us when we'd be going on hikes and waiting for lunch. And it was always like a gap filler. It was always just like a time filler, you know, like let's sing a song. We've got 10 minutes to wait for the coach, or we're on the coach and everyone's chanting and singing all these like mad songs. So I think it's really natural for me, and I feel like now sort of leading singing, I think I've really taken it for granted how it's just been such a normal thing in my life. I mean, just before we started this, I can hear my mum like singing in the shower. So, you know, it's just been such a part of my life. I was in the choir at school for years, and yeah, we're staying at my mum's this weekend. So yesterday she was playing Bridge Over Troubled Water. So I was singing that with her on the piano that we used to do like years ago. So yeah, I've always been around music, always been around singing. And then yeah, I think when I started learning guitar, then I was kind of combining sort of starting to write music and sort of bring that with the guitar, sort of playing songs through that. I guess that's been the journey, and then it's just kind of continued on from that.
I love the fact that you're singing from childhood, which I think we all do as children, has continued so much throughout your life in the connections with your family and your traditions. I don't have as much of that ritual influence or religious traditions kind of that have run through my life, but actually I was thinking about this the other day and I want to mention it. I'm writing a book at the moment, my first book, which is also going to be called Dandelion Stories, and I'm writing about the joy of singing in that book, and I'm reflecting on when I stopped singing. Obviously, I've rediscovered singing now through Singing Mamas, and it really was down to the fact that my dad would sing with me, and my dad was really passionate about singing. He loved to sing, and we would sing, and he would really encourage me to sing. And my dad passed away 17 years ago, and I wanted to mention that because we're recording this on Father's Day, and I think it's important to kind of just say like thanks dad for being that kind of champion in my life, and really I'm able to reconnect with my own joy and with his spirit through the act of singing. So I really, yeah, I just wanted to say that, and I'm so glad I've come back around to it because it is so nurturing for us all.
I think it's such an ancient thing, and your story is so common. Like obviously we did our training together, and there was a few women who you said, you know, they sung at school and then they stopped. And some women who come to my group, they're like, oh, I used to sing, because everyone sort of sings in school, especially kind of in the 80s, everyone would sing. But then there'd be this massive like decade or 2 decade gap. So it's just, I guess it's our society as well. It's not like accessible, it's not around so much. So it's such a common theme, people kind of like not singing. But yeah, I feel it's just always been something I've loved. So I've always just carried on.
I think it's true what I think Kate Valentine said about, the culture around singing now. I think the whole rise of things like X Factor and other programs that have obviously come before and after that, that make people feel that they have to be, the best, or there's like a perfection that has to be found in singing. And absolutely, we know it's true that everybody has a voice, a unique voice, and that it's when you get into the circles that promote things like peace and love, you are welcome, and your voice is very much welcomed into that space. So yeah, I'm really passionate about, rediscovering your voice, finding your voice, being seen, being heard, and all of that. And singing just really is a doorway into all of that, I believe.
I think it's very empowering. I think it's just a sort of way to project yourself and to give yourself that voice. Like, yeah, it's just
Yeah, and the Singing Mama training, can't recommend that highly enough, really, for anyone that loves to sing and feels that they could share songs. Look it up. I'll put obviously links in the show notes about that. But it really was the starting point for me in terms of my evolution into this next kind of chapter for myself, and starting this podcast and writing my book and all of those things and rediscovering that joy. So yeah, I'm gonna ask you another question now, something that has inspired me about you particularly. Um, we mentioned Solebound and the band that you've been singing in and writing songs for the last 15 to 20 years. And you've done over the years lots of festivals throughout the summer. And I wondered how you find that lifestyle, especially now that you're a mum. Yeah, how do you find motherhood alongside gigging and festival life?
I think definitely since becoming a mum, like a lot of, I guess my music has always, it's been like, it's kind of carried, it's been on a journey with me. So everything I've sort of written is like a reflection of of my life. Like I wrote a song in my early 20s about being out of work, and it's actually really, I found that recently because I've got a whole songbook that my friend is like, what are you doing? You need to put it into like a computer or something. Why is it all written? Yeah, so I write all my songs. I've had the same songbook for about 20 years. And I guess, yeah, with the question of having like the festivals and motherhood, I think it all just like it just works together because all of us in the band now, we're all mothers. We have mostly been for the last however many years, and our families are always with us at festivals. So like it's not like we've never done a festival without all the kids, like in the last sort of 10 years. Because this is kind of what we are. This is, I think, how what people see us as at the moment. Um, it's the music, it's the trying to find a moment to rehearse when there's like 15 children running around the camp, someone wanting food and this and that, and trying to hide out in Helen's bell tent for like a tiny pocket of time to rehearse. So I think it's that kind of shambolic creativity that kind of enables us to be together and to play. We always bring our kids to festivals. And I think it's just the lifestyle we had before children. So we've kind of, we would never imagine we're going to have kids and now we're going to stop doing everything we loved doing before. Like me and my husband we've been going to festivals for years. So we just wanted to, it just only felt natural to bring our kids with us. And the festivals we go to they're great for kids. Kids are just out in the fields, they're free. We can all spend time together with our friends, and all the kids are just sort of together, playing football, making giant bubbles, doing face paints, lying around, looking at books. Like we kind of make a lovely space that's for everyone. Like the kids have a little space, all the stuff and the toys and all the paraphernalia that goes along with that. And I love them because it really gives like me time just to relax for a few days. It's kind of like everyone's looking after each other, you're kind of in this real like community, and that's, I guess, like what my music is about, really. I'm kind of like embodying what I write about. So yeah, and like fortunately we're always given most of the time, plus ones. So we bring all our kids with us, we bring our partners, and it's like everyone to experience that, which is what the festivals are about, really.
You mentioned kind of shambolic creativity. I love that. I love that as a phrase, because so many of us are so conditioned to believe that it has to be a certain way, or feel a certain way, or look a certain way, and obviously that can hold us back from being creative. It can hold us back from doing the things that we really want to do, that we put on ourselves. And the fact that you are just kind of like, this is the way it is, we're just going to grab a few moments when we can to rehearse, and you kind of just living and breathing that. And I think I want more of that in my life, for sure. I'm actually recording this today. We're recording on a Sunday, and I've got my kids home. I'm a single mum, so I got no one. Luckily, they're old enough to kind of look after themselves. But Lauren's 8 and she may just burst through the door at any moment. So, you know, that's kind of constantly on my mind as well. And I think that, you know, we can't let these things stop us from just cracking on and doing the things that we love to do.
I think like it's just multitasking, and I think women are just really good at that. But like saying that, I think because with Solebound, I'm really used to um like because I write everything and I know it really well, and I'm comfortable with what I think. Um, and there's three of us now, and Helen, who's been with us for years, she's amazing, and she's also like classically trained. So she's like one of the backing singers, Helen, and she's like, but she's really like likes perfection as well. So it is actually good to have a balance of that. And we have a friend who's just joined, so sort of Helen's taken on the sort of lead like role of sort of the backing singer, almost like she's sort of helping Lucy through it, and a lot of the harmonies are changing. And I do often like mid gig change the set list, but Helen's like, that's fine, I'm used to that. So it is good. We have got a balance of like, we all have at moments wanting to be like, obviously, but like we say in Singing Mamas, we strive to be perfectly imperfect. So yeah, like you were saying, we just have to do our best and not to be held back. Because if you're just thinking about, oh, it has to be perfect before, God, I don't think any of my music would be shared if it was like, yeah. And a lot of things I write, obviously we can talk about it later, but with Dandelion, I kind of write things sometimes so quickly because it's like almost just there waiting to be created. And then other songs I could half finish because I've taken so much time to think about it and how it should be. And they're often the songs that don't actually go anywhere.
Mm.
So,
What you just said about Dandelion, and we'll talk about Dandelion a little bit in a minute, but what you just said about that reminded me of the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. I don't know if you've read it, but I just love that book. And if you get a chance, I listened to it on audio and it was amazing. Liz Gilbert reads it herself, and she talks about how creativity is just, it's there and it is literally being channeled through people, and if it doesn't come through you, it will land in somebody else and it will come through somebody else. I love that notion. I love that idea. I really, yeah, sort of makes me all shivery thinking about how that could be true.
yeah, that is nice. Like, choose me, come to me.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more. So as we're on the subject of Soulbound, tell me a little bit more about the kind of past. We talked about the present, where you are right now. You're all in motherhood. You're all kind of mumbling through the life of motherhood and gigging and just not letting it hold you back. Why did it start? And then tell me about like where you see it going in the future as the kids get older and things.
So I guess, yeah, my early 20s, living in Camden, like Kentish Town. Yeah. I was just sort of, yeah, just playing around. I'd sort of only learned guitar when I was 18, just before I started uni. So through uni, I was sort of writing songs. I did a few gigs with a friend and we just do covers. So that was kind of my first life in sort of gigging in pubs in Brighton then, and then sort of went back to London and traveled around a bit and was always kind of writing songs. And then, yeah, we sort of just with friends. So it was like three of us, actually, it was just me and my friend. And he used to play on the drum, on the cajon, like the square drum. Actually, and then he used to play on a djembe. And yeah, we just used to play gigs around Camden. And then kind of other friends joined. And my friend Tara, who's now in Ireland, she's literally been in the band since the beginning. Just got really into just harmonizing, and I've always loved harmonizing. So we were singing together and doing gigs. And then we had another friend. People have sort of come and gone, and we did a lot of gigs around. There was a great place called Inspiral, which used to be on the river, and it was just a really cool place, like vegan food, like really cool music. It was just a really great venue. We used to play there quite a lot. And then, yeah, then we like moved to Brighton, played a bit around there, and then I kind of, started having kids. And I guess a bit before that, we used to play at a few sort of gigs, festivals around Sussex. So we used to play at Wild Heart, which was a lovely, gorgeous, small festival that sort of evolved into the wild as one sort of strand of them went off and did that. So we play there every year, and they used to do like a gorgeous Beltane one every May, and then one in August. We play at the one in August every year. And then I guess we did that for a few years pre-children, and then sort of carried on playing with children, and we'll be playing there at the end of August. It's a really great festival, great for kids, great for adults, great for families. They've got a really great sort of rewilding ethos and sort of nature connection, which is obviously very like important to me, and it kind of comes through my music. Yeah, I think like, so for a lot of years we had a lot of different musicians come and go. We had like a banjo player, we had a full drum kit, we had all these instruments. And then me and my husband went to India. We've been a couple of times, but that time we went, I was busking with all my songs, getting money in Goa for like dinner, and these like lovely little cafes. And I was like, oh, you know what? I really like just my music without everything, like with all the other instruments. It just felt really lovely just to have like the voice and the guitar. So then when I came back and we kind of moved to Brighton around that we lived in Forest Row for a year, and I was like, we just need less instruments and just more voices. So then I was really like, you know what, it's all about the voices. Whereas now it's literally 3 women, 3 voices, lots of harmonies, guitar and a pipe. Helen does have a cello, but she had a baby, so she basically can't fit the cello and the baby in the car. So for this summer and last summer, she's carried her pipes around with her and Fabian. So hopefully next summer, she said she's going to get a roof rack. I'm like, come on, we need the cello.
I'm glad she chose the baby over the cello.
I know, there's been a lot of like options we're trying to work out, but yeah, it just got to, I think I felt like a lot of pressure for like festival bands, but everyone's like up and dancing. I'm like, maybe we should be like that. I don't know. But then I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm really happy with how we are now. And I'm like, it's all about the voices, and it's all about just gentle music. I've got a good friend who's gonna do a bit of cajon, but he's an amazing musician and he really loves our music and he respects it. And I had a little jam with him, and it sounds great because he'd probably be the only person I know who could do percussion with us, because I just know he gets it. He's recorded an album of ours, and he's just, yeah, so it's quite exciting. That's sort of coming up. I guess he's going to play with us for a couple of festivals in the summer as well, so that's kind of definitely a new direction as well.
Amazing.
But we're always evolving, so always like
I
open.
think what you've been saying there just kind of leads on really well into talking a bit more about Singing Mamas, because obviously Singing Mamas is all about the harmonies, it's all about the voices, it's all about those gentle, soothing songs that just lift us. So yeah, what drew you to Singing Mamas?
So I took I when I was first pregnant with Oren, when I lived in Forest Row, so that's sort of where it began. Kate had a group there, and my friend Tara, who I was living with, used to take her son, and she's like, you've got to come. So I went a few times to that, and then we like left Forest Row, and then only a couple of years ago I took Noah, who was probably about 5 months. I just was like, kept on seeing it on Facebook, and I was like, oh my God, I have to go to a group. And I really loved it. I went there for like quite a few months, and then the teacher, Jenny, had to move back to France. And I had some friends who were in the group who had made great friends being in there. They were like, why don't you do the training? I'm like, I can't, it's not the right time. It wasn't the right time. Like, no, it was still so little, and it was just breastfeeding and just impossible at that moment. But it was always like in my head. And I was going to go down the sort of forest school route. And then a friend of mine, Shelley, was always like, do the training. I'm like, no, I'm not doing the training. And then I was like, at some point, I think maybe our training was in the November. So I think in the beginning of that year, I was like, okay, I'm going to do the training. And when I decided it, I was just like, oh, that's exactly what I want to do. I got so excited because I've always loved singing, and the songs that we sung in the group, like I still used to sing to Noah, I still sing to her now, still meet, like we've still got a group of mums, there's like 4 of us that we still meet up because our kids are all the same age. We had that initial connection of being in that Singing Mama circle. So I think like when I started my group, it's so relatable because I went through that journey and I know the power of the songs, and I know the power of the connection, and how 2 years on I'm still like good friends with these women, and we still sing the same songs. And it's just really like, it's just a basic enjoyment, just getting together and singing. So
Yeah, that made me think about how I enjoy so much the simplicity of a lot of the songs that we sing in Singing Mamas, and then it's the harmonies that add the layers of complexity. And you always think at the beginning of a song when you're learning it, there's no way I'm going to remember this, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this, and then it just sort of embeds in you. You don't even really need to think about it, it just goes in, and then you sing it and it sounds amazing. And we've talked about this kind of like fizzle at the end of a song where you just and everybody's resonating on this kind of energy level, and like every single one of your cells has been picked up and shook around. Zoe Kennedy says this, she's the singing leader of the group that I go to here in Bristol and Hanham, and she said every cell has been wiggled and jiggled, and then it's just been settled back into its natural resting place. And I really feel that it's palpable in my body. It's so yeah,
I think it's like,
I can sort of tune into it now as we're
yeah,
talking
no,
about it.
it's true. It's amazing, because I guess like not every song is like that, but a lot are. It is amazing. Like most songs, you get to the end and there's this kind of silence, and also especially when there's like loads of little ones running around or just hearing their little babble, and then suddenly there's just this quiet, and you just don't want to like drop anything. You don't want it. You just want to kind of cherish that moment, like, catch it and like put it in your pocket. And yeah, it's almost like it's like fizzing in the air, and everyone's almost like like gasp of like, wow, we've created this. And there's two mums in my group I'm winning doing that are like, oh, that's the witchy one, because there's this beautiful song, and they're like as if we're like stirring a cauldron. um
And
the one
often I completely forget by that. It's like it's just gone. It's like I knew those words so well. I sang them over and over and over again, and like 100 times, and now I can't remember any of it, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I get that with loads of when I'm doing gigs, I'm like, oh God, I'm like, no one will know songs I've sung like a million times. I'm like, oh God, why did I just sing that verse again?
But I think it's so
Yeah.
important, like in today's age, we're all so busy, and we know so much, don't we, now collectively about mental health and about mindfulness and living in the present moment. And it really is one of those ways, especially if you struggle to meditate. Like I don't find it that easy to meditate. I kind of have to have something going on that brings me into that meditative state. And I think singing just does that for me. It really, really does.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm. I wanted to also mention, just picking up on something you said, there was a lady who came along to our training who was breastfeeding and did have her baby there, and it's so welcomed, isn't it, that you
Oh
can,
yeah, definitely.
whenever it's right for you, you can just come, even if you're not a mum. As long as you're female or identifying as female, you can go and do that training. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that in case anybody's listening and thinking, oh, what is this? I would love to, as we're talking about peace, love, and song sharing, I do think what we've just said about mindfulness and creating that feeling of peace and love within yourself, so many of those songs can do that for us. I was interested to know what inspires you in the everyday to write songs about peace and love.
Probably because there isn't enough at the moment. That's kind of, I mean, I write songs not because I see lots of peace around. I write songs because I don't see lots of peace around, and I'm like, yeah. So the most recent songs, I mean, I wrote a lot of songs over the winter because of the war in Gaza and Israel, and they were just very like sad songs. So a lot of them I wouldn't really share, but it was almost like a sort of quite a therapeutic way of just sort of writing a lot of poetry and thoughts. But yeah, but then I do have like, songs you know, I lived in this amazing community in Barcelona in my 20s, and it was just this totally like what do you call it, anarchic place. And so songs that are positive about that and community, because I've seen this amazing community, I've seen it function. So, but definitely, like, yeah, with my songs about sort of peace and love and things like that, are definitely reflecting on the sort of the current situation in the world. So trying to sort of get people to look above that and not be so fixated with certain narrative that they're sort of, you know, being exposed to. So I'm trying to like, and I think music is a real, it should just be this like amazing thing that connects everyone, like totally beyond boundaries, beyond culture, everything. Music is like for everyone, and I think music is a language that should be used to connect people together and not to divide people. So, you know.
I absolutely agree. I feel like it's a real medicine for me at the moment, music. And yeah, the messages that come through the music that I choose to listen to really do, yeah, literally lift me into a different vibrational state of being. Yeah. Are you happy to maybe share voicing out loud or even singing maybe a chorus or a verse for a song that you've written about peace or love or both?
Yeah, I've got a song that I wrote on New Year's Day. It's called New Year's Peace. And after October 7th, I just was like, oh, come on, it's going to happen. Peace is going to happen. And then you kind of wake up on New Year's Day and everyone's like talking about what they want for the year. And I'm like, well, you know, this is what I want. I kind of want New Year peace. Let's start now. And yeah, it really means a lot to me. And sort of been singing at festivals and people have been really like receiving it really well. And I just want people just to be able to look out of their world and kind of just see beyond, because you know, we're all like one people really, and the planet is so small. So, and I think it's so small because we can so see what's going on. It's very different to sort of 60 years ago, 70 years ago. Well, you didn't really know, you couldn't really see what's going on. I think almost there's almost too much for people to see what's going on. But yeah, so it's called New Year's Peace, and I can sing the last bit. So it goes. So on this day we plant the seed of hope, and let this beautiful life grow. Show it love, show it kindness, bring it into a world with human oneness. Peace in the moment, peace in our hearts, and it's time for love. Yes, it's time for kindness. Peace in the moment, peace in our hearts, and it's time for love. Yes, it's time for kindness.
Thank you. I've got literal goosebumps from that. It's lovely. And you're so right. I mean, I think I can actually admit here, kind of confession from me, that I've gone quite inward over the last few years. I think that time around COVID, I became almost too obsessed with what was going on in the news.
Mm-hmm.
And so for my own sanity, I suppose, I pulled back away from the news and looking at what was going on outside, because it was stirring up so much inside of me. But I think it's really important that we don't become too detached from the awareness of what is going on in the world. And I think that the more that we can embody that peace and love within ourselves, it will ripple outwards.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, not to be so closed off that you're not aware and that you become ignorant to what is going on in the world. So I think what you're doing is really important, spreading that message. So thank you.
Thank you. It is really hard because you just especially like looking after children, and it's really hard to take on what's going on in the world because it is really depressing. But there's also like some amazing work out there, and so many artists and musicians are really trying to like bring people together and kind of bring that awareness. So I mean, I get it. So it's just finding that balance.
One of the reasons why I've decided to put this podcast out and to invite women to speak with me here, because we all have such unique voices and unique stories to share, and I find it hugely inspirational to learn about other people's viewpoints, other people's vantage points, other people's experiences in the world. And there's not enough good news sharing in the world, is there?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe in some small way, this podcast can do that for people. Finally, Dandelion song. I love, obviously, any songs with that nature connection. And you were driving along one day with your daughter in the car. I don't know if your sons were in the car as well, but I know you were driving along one day and you saw these dandelions out the window and they picked you. And I really believe that. I really believe that there is consciousness in everything, and there's consciousness and spirit in these wildflowers, and they come to me and they're talking to me and reminding me of things about myself, and that I can reflect that in myself. And just interested to know kind of like how that dropped in for you. Just say a few words on that and we'll finish there.
Well, like I was saying earlier, we kind of finding like little pockets of time with all the things that I'm doing, and I don't know how I manage it all, but it sort of just managed to work. Yeah, we were driving back, so all the way, so sort of from Falmouth into Woodingdean, we're kind of right on the edge of the South Downs, and it's a really beautiful road, but there's always loads of traffic. So we're kind of sitting in it with the three kids in the back, and there's just dandelions everywhere, and I just sort of composed this little song, and it just came all the notes, all the words, and I just recorded it on my phone, because we were just at standstill, sitting there, like really just not moving. So I safely recorded it, and I think it was just, yeah, like the whole idea about dandelions, how they just spread their seed and they're so resilient, and they just travel for miles and miles. And I guess when we talked about it, like after I gave you the song, and kind of it made me really think about the connection between dandelions and song sharing, how songs just carry on and they get passed on. And there's definitely what we do in Singing Mum is we like kind of have these little songs that we just pass them on, and they pass on, like you were saying about the ripple effect, and they kind of get taken and sung to their children and listened to, and they're just lovely like gifts. And we always, where we can, like acknowledge who's written them, and get permission, and often like pay for the manuscript, and just really, it's just this oral tradition, this oral history. So almost, I guess, the song kind of represents that as well, which was like a really nice way to think of, kind of connect it all together.
I love that. I love that so much. I think that's a perfect way to end this conversation. And I just wanted to add very quickly that I put a little social media post out just ahead of recording this to say that time is it eludes me. Time eludes me. I'm definitely have time blindness going on. And what was supposed to be a 25-minute chat has probably turned into more like a 40 to 45-minute chat. But I'm hoping that everybody really, really enjoys the conversation that we've had this morning. Thank you so much for taking time out. This is the second time that we've recorded this podcast, because the first time the audio quality wasn't good enough. So let's keep our fingers very tightly crossed for this time. And I really look forward to seeing you over the summer at some festivals.
It was lovely to speak to you, and to sort of be asked all these questions that I don't really like think about, or ask myself. So it was really lovely, and feel very honoured to be asked to come on your new podcast. So thank you, Emily.
Thank you, Laura. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
When we work together in collaboration with each other, helping other women to find their voices and share their stories, it gives permission for everybody else to rise up and do the same. So until next time, sending so much love.
Dandelion, you're a joy to my eyes. Dandelion, you're a joy to my eyes. Oh, your yellow and gold flies through the breeze. Far and wide you spread your seed.
I want to give a big, heartfelt thank you to Laura Julius-Cohen for donating so kindly her beautiful Dandelion song to this podcast. Laura is the lead singer-songwriter of Solebound. Go check them out. I've put links to their socials in the show notes. Laura also loves dandelions, and she loves how far their seeds can travel, just like songs and stories. Again, I'd just like to mention that I really love it when you share, rate and review on whichever podcast station you prefer to listen to. Thank you.